You feel it before you see it, that subtle but undeniable shift in the air that makes your skin tingle and your heart beat in a rhythm you can't explain. It's as if the room itself inhales, as if the world pauses for a moment just to whisper your name. This is not your imagination. This is not random. This is the invisible hand of heaven moving around you, rearranging the unseen, making way for something your soul has been waiting for. Your spirit often senses what your mind cannot explain, because in the kingdom, the spiritual always moves first before the physical reacts. Every true miracle, every divine breakthrough, begins in the realm no eye can see. The Bible tells us in Hebrews that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. What you're feeling is that evidence pressing against your reality before it fully manifests. Sometimes, when angels move close to fulfill their assignment, they disturb the atmosphere in ways no one talks about. It can be a soft chill, a sudden quiet, a pressure in the air that makes your senses sharpen. Psalm 91 says angels are assigned to guard you in all your ways, and when they draw near, the world seems to slow down because your destiny is being escorted into place. And then, the alignment begins. Little things start clicking together. Coincidences that are too precise to be coincidence. A phone call you didn't expect. A delay that suddenly makes sense. A stranger's glance that feels like it carries a message from somewhere higher. Divine timing has a rhythm that is never rushed and never late. It announces itself in the way your heart suddenly knows, even before your mind catches up. That sense of inner alignment is heaven's way of saying, get ready. What I promised is already moving toward you. And often, heaven chooses strangers as vessels to carry the key to your next season. They don't know your history. They don't carry the jealousy, the doubt, or the bias that your circle might. They are sent clean, sent pure, carrying a fragment of your future wrapped in what looks like an ordinary gesture. One conversation in a coffee shop. One unexpected favor in a grocery line. One smile from someone you have never met, and suddenly the spiritual electricity in the air confirms it. This is not a random encounter. This is a divine setup. The energy doesn't lie when destiny draws near. Your soul feels it before your eyes can see it. That is why your isolation mattered. Those lonely nights, those doors that closed in your face, those seasons of being left out, they were not punishment. They were preparation. Heaven cleared the stage of every distraction, every counterfeit, every voice that could interfere, so that when this divine encounter comes, it arrives pure and uncontested. And now, here you are, standing in the intersection of time and eternity, feeling that inner tremor that says something is about to break. Most people miss these moments because they dismiss the nudge or overthink the sign. But the chosen recognize the language of the unseen. You do not need fireworks or a trumpet blast. Your spirit already knows that this vibration in the atmosphere is a miracle announcement. Heaven hides its greatest moves in ordinary moments. Not in stadiums, not under spotlights, but in quiet streets, waiting rooms, parking lots, where a divine stranger will carry the exact piece you need to unlock your next level. When that shift in the air comes, and it will, you must do more than notice. You must respond with faith, because this is how your life changes without warning. This is how heaven keeps its promises to the ones who have waited, the ones who have listened, the ones who are ready to receive. Heaven often hides its greatest blessings in the hands of the unexpected. The people who know you best sometimes trap you in the shadow of your past. They remember the old mistakes, the small beginnings, the season when your light was dim. But a stranger carries no such memory. They see you only in the now. They come free of bias, free of old labels, carrying a pure fragment of your future wrapped in what looks like an ordinary moment. God does this on purpose. He uses strangers to bypass the resistance of man. If your blessing came through familiar hands, envy could rise, jealousy could block it, manipulation could taint it. A friend might question your worthiness, family might demand a piece of it. But when a stranger is the vessel, the transfer is clean. Heaven writes a check no one else can sign, and it lands directly in your hands. A stranger's role in your story is rarely random. Every encounter that feels like chance is actually a checkpoint in destiny. You might call it coincidence, but heaven calls it orchestration. That barista who smiles at you, that driver who gives you a ride, that passerby who stops to speak a single sentence. These are not background characters. They are secretly carrying assignments written long before you ever crossed paths. Psalm 37 says the steps of the righteous are ordered by the Lord, and that means every hallway, every sidewalk, every waiting room can become a sacred meeting ground. Your next level often requires a key you don't hold. Breakthroughs rarely come in isolation. There is always a bridge, a connection, a moment of transfer that heaven sets in motion. Sometimes it's a recommendation that lands you in the right room. Sometimes it's a financial seed you never expected. Sometimes it's just a sentence, a word of confirmation, that unlocks the courage you needed to walk through the door already open for you. And it will come from someone who doesn't even know they are holding the key. Prophetic encounters rarely arrive with a warning label, no glowing halo, no thunder from the sky. They slip into your day like a gentle breeze, quiet but undeniable. That's why discernment matters. Only those who live awake in the Spirit will recognize the divine fingerprints on what looks like an ordinary moment. Heaven loves to wrap its glory in simplicity because it tests the eye of the chosen, and the unfamiliar is what bypasses your logic and awakens your spirit. You don't overthink it because you have no frame of reference. You are open, you are curious. And that openness is where miracles unfold. Heaven delights in using the least likely vessels. Sometimes it is a humble figure, a person with nothing flashy, someone the world would overlook. Yet they carry the exact piece you need to step into your next chapter. Your posture in that moment determines if the blessing transfers. Suspicion will make it slip away. Pride will close the gate. But humility, gratitude, and spiritual alertness will open the flow. Every divine stranger is a mirror of unseen grace, a living reminder that you are seen, loved, and protected even when life tried to convince you otherwise. One stranger, one sentence, one small gesture can reroute your entire life trajectory. What years of effort could not do, one heaven-sent encounter can shift in a moment. And when it happens, your soul will know, this is the move I've been waiting for. This is the secret hand of heaven changing everything. Heaven often moves in ways that feel invisible to the natural eye, yet undeniable to the spirit. A stranger steps into your path with no warning, no agenda, no knowledge of who you are, and yet they carry a piece of your breakthrough in their hands. This is the mystery of divine anonymity. The vessel doesn't need to know your history to deliver heaven's promise. They are simply the channel, and heaven flows through them with precision. Your name is already known in the courts of heaven, long before it's ever spoken on earth. Long before this stranger crossed your path, the blessing had your name sealed on it in the Spirit. Luke 12:7 reminds you that even the hairs on your head are numbered, which means heaven does not make accidental deliveries. That stranger may not know you, but heaven has been speaking your name in rooms you cannot see. Blessings move fastest when ego is removed from the equation. When the person delivering it doesn't expect anything in return, doesn't project their own pride or control, the flow is clean, uncorrupted. This is why the most life-changing gifts often arrive through unexpected hands, people who don't linger, who don't hold your blessing hostage with conditions, who simply release what was always meant for you. There is a hidden safety in this kind of delivery. When the hand is unknown, it is protected from the familiar sabotage of envy, gossip, or interference. If the blessing had been entrusted to someone in your old circle, it might have been delayed, tainted, or even blocked. But heaven chose a nameless vessel so no human fingerprints could alter what was designed for your destiny. The unseen hand is often the safest hand. God's orchestration is flawless. He positions the right person at the right moment, and they don't need to understand the fullness of their role for the miracle to manifest. They may think it's just an act of kindness, a small gesture, but your spirit will know this is divine timing in motion. And yet, this anonymity also carries a test of faith. Can you recognize a holy moment when it comes wrapped in simplicity? Can you discern heaven's movement when it doesn't arrive in the form you were expecting? This is where the chosen ones are separated from the crowd. You walk by faith, not by sight, and your spirit must stay awake enough to sense that this ordinary encounter is the delivery of an extraordinary promise. The greatest blessings rarely come with introductions or grand announcements. No trumpets, no spotlight. Sometimes, they walk past you in a grocery store, sit next to you on a train, or hold the door with a smile that somehow feels heavier than coincidence. These are prophetic moments disguised as everyday life. One nameless encounter can mark a lifetime shift. A single conversation, a simple gift, or an opportunity extended without warning can open the door you have been praying over for years. And when this happens, when heaven hides your blessing in the hand of a stranger, it is proof you are being watched over in secret. Psalm 121 whispers that the Lord never sleeps, never slumbers, and never forgets his own. Even when the world overlooks you, heaven is actively scripting divine intersections for your awakening. You have never been abandoned. Every delay, every lonely night, every closed door was preparation for this hidden transfer. And now, the air around you carries that quiet electricity again, that subtle shift that signals something sacred is near. You will know it not by the size of the moment, but by the vibration in your soul that says, "This is the one I've been waiting for." Every delay you've endured carried a hidden instruction from heaven. What felt like wasted time was actually divine choreography. That flat tire, that missed flight, that cancelled meeting, they were not punishments. They were prophetic pauses, hand-placed by God to lift you out of danger and align you with destiny. Every "not yet" you've heard in your spirit was heaven whispering, "I'm aligning something bigger." And now, as you look back, the roads that felt broken and confusing start to form a pattern. The very detours you resented are forming the map of your breakthrough. You thought life was punishing you, but heaven was positioning you. When doors slammed, when people walked away, when opportunities dissolved in front of your eyes, God was not withholding. He was redirecting. The Bible says in Proverbs 16:9, "A man's heart plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." Every step, even the backward ones, were part of a divine design. Your disappointments were coded instructions pushing you toward a moment you could never schedule for yourself, because the straight road to your destiny rarely exists. True destiny curves, bends, and doubles back, not because you're lost, but because heaven is taking you through a route your enemies cannot predict. Every setback has been a divine shield. If you had arrived too early, the blessing wouldn't be ready. If you had arrived too late, the window would have closed. But in this exact moment, after every delay and detour, the timing is perfect. The strangers carrying your blessing are already in motion, moving along paths that are converging with yours. Somewhere, in a place that looks ordinary, a divine encounter is being staged, an appointment you could never have scheduled on your own. Your enemies saw chaos. They celebrated your stalled plans and whispered that you were cursed. But heaven saw choreography. Heaven saw the dance of destiny moving you into position with the precision of a master conductor. Every no, every stop, every unexpected turn was part of the music. And the moment is coming when the rhythm of your life and the rhythm of your breakthrough collide. You've felt it in your spirit already, the sense that something hidden is guiding your steps. That strange coincidence that keeps pulling you toward places and people you didn't plan to meet. That inner warning that makes you hesitate right before taking a step you would later regret. These are not random feelings. This is the spiritual GPS of the chosen one, tuned to the frequency of your next season. When you finally see how the delays and detours connected, you will realize they were never delays at all. They were divine alignments. The meeting you thought you missed was only rescheduled for heaven's perfect hour. The rejection that stung was simply clearing the room for the one who was truly sent. And the life that felt interrupted was only being interrupted by grace, by mercy, by love that refused to let you walk into the wrong door. So now, the air shifts again. You are closer than ever. And when the moment comes when that stranger steps into your story, holding the peace you didn't even know you needed, you will see that every delay was a prophetic invitation to a miracle that could only find you in heaven's time. They left you. They turned their back. They whispered that you were finished. But heaven was smiling, because rejection is rarely the end. It is the secret redirection of your destiny. Every name that walked away was heaven removing the wrong cast from your story. Because not everyone can be trusted with your next level. Some would poison the blessing with their envy. Some would try to hold it hostage for their control. So God did what you could not. He cleared the stage. Your isolation was not punishment. It was preparation. That empty room, that silent phone, those nights you thought no one saw you, they were sacred spaces where the unseen realm could move without interference. In the stillness, your spirit began to glow brighter than your circumstances. Your solitude became a signal. Heaven looked and said, "There, they are ready. Now send the messenger." Psalm 34 says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted," and in your quiet ache, His presence grew louder than the world's rejection. Closed doors are not curses, they are protection. The invitations you didn't get, the plans that fell apart, the friends who moved on, all of it shielded the purity of your blessing. Because if the wrong people were still near, they would try to touch what was never theirs. They would label it, limit it, or leak it before its time. So heaven shut every door that would have corrupted your miracle. It felt cruel, but it was critical. It felt lonely, but it was strategic. Rejection was the filter that removed counterfeit connections. Every loss you mourned was actually a divine subtraction to make room for a sacred addition. The fake had to leave before the prophetic could arrive. And in that clean, quiet space, your spiritual radar became sharper than ever. You started noticing the subtle signs, the shift in energy, the divine nudges, the whispers that said, "Prepare. It's closer than you think." Who? Heaven always clears the stage before a divine performance. No clutter, no noise, no distraction. Only you, the unseen audience of angels, and the prophetic choreography of a moment that will change your life. And in that silence, the absence of familiar voices made the whispers of God thunder in your soul. Every warning, every confirmation, every subtle alignment became impossible to miss. Rejection broke your attachment to predictable paths. No more leaning on the same old patterns, the same old circles, the same old comfort zones. Heaven needed you free to recognize blessing in a strange place, from a stranger's hand, in a form your past would have ignored. And that isolation, that misunderstood season of exile, was heaven's proof that you were being positioned, not punished. Every tear was a seed. Every lonely night was a setup. Every closed door was a signpost pointing to the divine appointment ahead. And now, in the quiet after the storm, your soul is aligned, your eyes are open, and your spirit is ready for the stranger heaven chose to bless you. Your spirit always knows before your eyes do. Before the gift ever reaches your hands, before the moment even unfolds in the natural, there is a quiet electricity in your soul that whispers, "This is it." Heaven's blessings have a signature, a frequency, a pulse that bypasses logic and speaks straight to the core of who you are. It is the same way John leapt in Elizabeth's womb when Mary approached carrying Jesus. The Spirit recognizes destiny long before the mind can catch up. You feel it as a subtle excitement, a sacred peace, or a sudden stillness that washes over you without reason. It is heaven brushing past your heart, confirming that what is about to enter your life has been written in eternity. Divine favor rarely arrives with fireworks. No parades, no loud announcements, no spotlight. The greatest moves of heaven often hide in what looks ordinary. A stranger's smile, a casual conversation at a gas station, a coffee spilled that leads to a dialogue that changes everything. Luke 24 reminds us that Jesus walked the road to Emmaus with two men who didn't even recognize him until the bread broke. Heaven loves to move in ways that test your discernment. Will you see the supernatural inside the natural? Or will you dismiss the prophetic moment because it wore a normal face? Your first confirmation will always be peace. A deep, unshakable calm that settles in your chest as if every scattered piece of your journey suddenly clicks into place. This is the language of heaven, not chaos, not confusion, but the still, small voice Elijah heard in the cave, the whisper that says, "This is me, receive it." That peace will rise in you when the appointed stranger steps into your orbit. And though they may seem ordinary, the impact they carry is extraordinary. It might be a rideshare driver who gives you a word that unlocks your courage, a store clerk who points you to something that shifts your finances, a person you've never met who opens a door your inner circle could never touch. Heaven wraps the miraculous in simplicity because only the discerning will catch it. The supernatural often disguises itself as the natural. It is heaven's way of protecting your blessing from pride, from interference, from the eyes of your enemies. God moves in whispers, because whispers are only heard by those who are listening. That is why you feel that inner nudge, that instant yes in your spirit when it's truly divine. You won't need a reason. You won't need evidence. Your heart will recognize the signature of your Creator in the moment. Then the synchronicities will start to unfold like sparks on a trail. One thing leads to another. A message confirms a dream. A door opens where there was once only a wall. Isaiah 30:21 says, "Your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, 'This is the way, walk in it.'" That is how you know the stranger was more than a stranger. They were a vessel. And the blessing they bring will align perfectly with the prayers you whispered when no one was listening. The secret desires you barely dared to speak will find their mirror in the gift that appears. You won't have to chase this. You won't have to force it. True blessing doesn't require begging or battling. It arrives on the wings of divine timing, and your only assignment is to recognize it and receive it. When it comes, your soul will know. Your hands will tremble not from fear but from holy confirmation. And deep inside, the voice of heaven will whisper the words you've been waiting to hear. This can only be from God. Some encounters are not random. They are prophetic timestamps written long before you took your first breath. The moment a stranger steps into your path carrying a gesture, a word, or a gift, you are not witnessing coincidence. You are standing inside a chapter that heaven scheduled in secret. That stranger may never know the weight of what they carry. They may hand you a note, pay for your coffee, or speak a sentence so simple that others dismiss it, but your spirit will recognize the divine shift immediately. Because God has a pattern, He often sends physical signs to confirm spiritual movements. A touch on the shoulder, a smile that lands like an answer, a gift that feels like the echo of your private prayer. In that instant, your heart will say, "Only heaven could have arranged this." A prophetic confirmation often speaks to the thing you whispered in the dark, the thing no one else knew you were asking for. That private longing, that secret tear you shed before sleep, is now meeting its evidence in the physical world. Just as God sent ravens to Elijah, He can send a stranger to you not to feed your ego, but to feed your destiny. And when this happens, something inside you will awaken with holy fear and holy joy all at once. You will realize that the silent season was never empty. The waiting was never wasted. Every lonely night was a rehearsal for this exact moment. But hear this warning. Acceleration in destiny rarely feels comfortable. When the wheel of heaven turns, your life begins to move faster than you expected. Doors open suddenly. Opportunities cascade like a river breaking a dam. That one act from a stranger is the trumpet blast announcing that your season has changed. This is when faith must outrun fear, because you are stepping into a path your enemies never predicted. The comfort of your old pace is gone. This is the beginning of the irreversible journey God ordained for you. And do not be fooled. Divine messengers often arrive in unsuspecting forms. They may wear work boots, a delivery uniform, or sit next to you on a bus. They do not glow in the natural, but they shine in the spirit. They are vessels chosen for a mission they themselves may not even understand. One small gesture from their hands can open a door that had been bolted shut for years. Your spirit will always interpret the gesture beyond the surface. Others may see kindness. You will see confirmation. Others may see generosity. You will feel the fingerprint of God. It will strike your soul like lightning, and you will know, it is time. My season has shifted. This is what prophetic encounters do. They validate that your endurance was not in vain. Every fast you kept, every prayer you whispered, every betrayal you endured, is answered in that single, living sign. And remember, acceleration often comes after a silent season. Heaven moves in patterns. There is the wilderness, then the whisper, then the sudden release. When that prophetic gift touches your life, it does more than meet a need. It signals that the larger narrative of your destiny has begun to unfold. You are being drafted into a storyline that reaches beyond your own plans, a story that heaven wrote before the foundation of the world. Recognizing the prophetic nature of this encounter is what activates the blessing. Gratitude opens the gate wider. Faith multiplies the impact. When you see this moment for what it truly is, not just a gift, but a heavenly signature, you agree to step into the rhythm of acceleration that God Himself has orchestrated. And from that moment, nothing in your life will remain the same. Readiness is not about how polished you look, or how carefully you planned your schedule. It is not about the clothes you wear, the script you rehearse, or the doors you try to force open. True readiness is a spiritual posture, a heart turned upward, a soul on alert, a mind uncluttered enough to notice the whisper of heaven when it brushes past. You can't always know the day, you can't predict the hour, and most times, the blessing comes in a form your logic would never expect. But if your spirit is open, you will recognize it the moment it appears, and that moment will change everything. Blessings that come from outside your circle will demand humility, because the divine stranger sent to bless you may not look like the help you prayed for. They may not speak your language. They may not match your expectations. And if pride rises first, if suspicion builds a wall, you could watch a prophetic door swing open and close before you even realize it was yours. That is why humility is a weapon. A soft, receptive heart will catch what a hard, self-reliant heart will miss. Heaven rarely delivers miracles through the channels you are familiar with. If every breakthrough came through your friends, your contacts, your comfort zone, then your faith would never stretch beyond what you can see. But God delights in proving that destiny is not bound by human networks. That is why Ruth's blessing came from a man she had never met in a field she had never worked. That is why Elijah's provision came from ravens and a widow in Zarephath. The divine pattern has always been this: the most life-changing favor often comes from a direction you never anticipated. And this is how heaven tests your readiness, by interrupting your routine with the unexpected. True spiritual readiness is revealed not in the calm but in the curveball. When a stranger holds out their hand, when an unfamiliar opportunity whispers your name, how you respond determines whether the blessing transfers or drifts past. You must have the discernment to sense, this is different, this is not ordinary, this is my prophetic moment. That is why heaven often chooses a secret vessel to deliver a pure blessing. A person unconnected to your story, carrying no agenda, no manipulation, no hidden strings. The blessing comes clean, unpolluted, because it is not tangled in the expectations of those who think they know you. This is how God guards his gifts, by sending them in packages that only the spiritually awake can recognize. To catch it, you need the rare skill of recognizing divine timing. Many pray for miracles but miss them because they come dressed as interruptions, delays, or detours. The chosen learn to pause when the air shifts, to step toward what feels unusual but peaceful, to move when their spirit says yes, even if their logic hesitates. Your openness is the invitation that aligns you with heaven's secret plans. When you release judgment and welcome the unexpected, you create a landing strip for favor to touch down in your life. But if suspicion rules, the transfer is blocked. The enemy knows that fear and cynicism are the quickest ways to push a blessing away. Receiving from a stranger is a bold declaration that your trust is in God, not people. It says, I know heaven can use anyone, anywhere, anytime to fulfill its promise. And when you are spiritually ready, surprise becomes activation. What would have been just a pleasant moment for someone else becomes the spark that ignites your new season. The ordinary handshake becomes a prophetic handshake. The quiet gift becomes the trumpet blast announcing your next chapter. And the world will call it luck, but your spirit will know it was heaven moving in secret, and you were ready to receive. Recognition is the gateway to activation. The moment you see it for what it is, the moment your spirit whispers, yes, the atmosphere changes. Miracles are not always loud. They often walk into your life wearing the clothes of the ordinary. A door held open, a stranger paying for your coffee, a simple conversation in a place you didn't plan to be. And yet, something deep inside you knows this is different. This is heaven, moving in secret. This is favor with a hidden signature. Supernatural favor rarely announces itself with fanfare. It comes as ordinary kindness, but it carries the weight of a divine shift. Someone offers help without knowing they are fulfilling prophecy over your life. Someone speaks a word that pierces your heart because it answers a prayer you never told anyone. That is why discernment matters. The flesh will doubt, but your spirit will recognize the vibration of destiny. That inner nod, that unexplainable peace, is heaven saying, this is for you, take it. Prophetic timing never demands struggle. It feels like perfect alignment. Things begin to flow as if they were rehearsed in eternity. You don't chase, you don't force. You simply step into the rhythm God already set in motion. The Bible says in Ecclesiastes 3:1, to everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven. When your season collides with heaven's timing, nothing can stop what has been written. Recognition, though, requires spiritual alertness. Many people pray for breakthroughs but walk past them every day because they are distracted, afraid, or expecting the spectacular. They want thunder and lightning, but heaven moves like a whisper, like it did with Elijah on the mountain, not in the wind, not in the fire, but in the still, small voice. If your heart is tired or cluttered with doubt, you can miss the very blessing you begged for. Supernatural favor always carries a signature of peace. It doesn't bring confusion. It doesn't demand you compromise your soul. It doesn't come with strings attached. When that stranger blesses you, your heart will feel light. Your spirit will sigh with relief. And you will know, this is not manipulation, this is divine love in motion. Every life-changing blessing comes with a test of discernment. Can you see the holy wrapped in the humble? Can you recognize the extraordinary inside the ordinary? This is the training of the chosen one to see with spiritual eyes while the world sleeps in blindness. Heaven will often send the answer in a package that offends your expectations. The prophetic encounter is rarely glamorous, but its impact is eternal. The speed of your breakthrough is tied to the speed of your recognition. When your heart says, "This is it," and you act, you activate the chain reaction heaven has hidden behind that moment. Delayed obedience slows the flow. Quick recognition opens floodgates. That is why Jesus said in Matthew 13, "Blessed are your eyes, for they see." Heaven's favor is wasted on the unprepared eye. Many ask for miracles but ignore the nudge, dismiss the stranger, or walk past the door God cracked open. They keep waiting for a burning bush, while the divine opportunity stands in line next to them at the grocery store. But when you recognize it, when you truly see it, everything changes. An ordinary Tuesday becomes a prophetic milestone. That simple encounter etches itself into your story as the day heaven reached down, touched the earth, and whispered, "Your time has come." Chosen one, a stranger is about to bless you.